Welcome to Cohesive Friendship Unit. My name is Chris. I am here with Brian,
What's going on?
Jeremy,
Yo, what's up?
and Jake.
Hey, guys.
Jake and I have purchased Fire Emblem Three Houses. We are very deep into this game. I am super, super deep. Jake is kind of deep. Brian has never played a Fire Emblem game, and Jeremy has played at least one Fire Emblem game. I think he's played like one and a
I have
half.
beaten Awakening, and I have played some of Conquest.
Yeah. Well, so what we're gonna do here, because Jake and I, we were texting about this game the whole last week. We really like this game and we really want to talk about it. So we're gonna talk about it, and Brian and Jeremy are gonna kind of ask some questions, like maybe things that they're curious about, things just in general about the game. But before we get into all that, we are doing a giveaway at 800 subscribers, which we are super close to, by the way. We are giving a copy of Conan Exiles on Steam. All you have to do is be subscribed to the channel. Check out our homepage for more information. All right, so Jeremy, you have a Switch. Why have you not?
Have a Switch.
Why have you not bought Fire Emblem?
That's a good question. I played Awakening, and I really liked Awakening. I played it with permadeath. I played it on hard mode, first time ever playing the series, and I really enjoyed the game. I found it challenging. I found it interesting. I liked the strategy. And then when I moved over to Conquest, my general feeling was just like, I've already played this game. Like, it didn't feel meaningfully different than Awakening. And I think that's just kind of my skepticism going into Three Houses. And I guess this would be my first question. How does this game distinguish itself from previous entries? And why would someone who's already... Because I'll speak for myself. I did not play Fire Emblem for the story or for the character development. I played it for the tactics and the kind of strategy. What kind of would make someone who's already beaten a game that's fundamentally pretty similar come back for more on this title?
I think I'll field that one, unless Jake wants to add anything after, just because I've played the Fates and Awakening, and Jake played older games. But right after that, I do want to hear Jake's overall take on the game. To me, the biggest difference is obviously the sim elements that they threw in to this game. So you're spending honestly probably half of your time out of battle and half of your time in battle. And out of battle, you are the professor of these students, and you're either instructing them or having support conversations with them or roaming around the school or going on auxiliary battles for them, attending seminars. But basically you are engaging in conversations or exploring and doing things to further other stats and class changes. That's the big, huge departure from Fire Emblem. Minor departures from the gameplay that you know, which is basically, I describe it as a chess tournament, except after every game, whatever pieces you lost, they're gone. You have to use permadeath. The moment-to-moment changes there are there's no more weapon triangle, and you can basically reclass anyone to any class at any time, assuming you have the stats, which is what you're working to in all the teaching sim stuff. And
when you say there's no weapons triangle, you mean the lances beat axes, axes beat swords beat lances, or whatever it was?
Yeah, that doesn't exist, and I thought it was going to suck, but it doesn't. I like it a lot.
In the absence of that, so that was where, at least for me, a lot of the strategy of the previous titles came in, was being really cautious with, for instance, if you had a dragon rider, if you were going to advance them, on the fields to take someone out, making sure that you didn't put yourself in the position of someone who could come at you with a lance or some other item that your unit would be vulnerable to. So in the absence of that, the weapons triangle, what kind of where does the strategy come in other than just kind of, oh, this guy's a high level, he can beat low level guys.
I actually made a video on this. Hey, but to answer your
I don't
question,
watch this channel.
I know. But no, I'm just saying for the people listening. The TLDR of it is the attributes of the weapon still persist. So like axes being the least accurate but the most powerful, that still exists. And things that are outside of the weapon triangle, like archers beating flying units, still exists, and mages beating armored units still exists. So you have to kind of build a team based around a combination of accuracy versus power, and like, you don't want all axes because it's not going to be accurate. You're not going to be consistent. You don't want all swords because you're not going to be doing enough damage. And whatever weapon you pick ultimately determines what class you go to. So like if you pick someone and you prioritize them on using swords, you might not be able to make them a mounted unit later down the line, for example. But Jake, what do you think about the game so far?
So I was very skeptical. I talked to you about this a lot, that like you said, I've played old school Fire Emblem, so I played Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, and that was about it. I've never played the portable versions of Fire Emblem. And the fact that all the marketing emphasized being a professor and all of the non-traditional aspects of Fire Emblem kind of turned me off. And Chris did a good video on this last week, I think, so go check that out if you want to hear more about that. But the marketing for this game sucked.
Yeah.
Luckily, I still bought it because I was ready for a Fire Emblem game because I haven't played it in a long time. And it's great. I'm in love with the game. I like pretty much all the changes. I do wish they had the weapons triangle. I think that is something they're missing. In addition to kind of keeping the standard, some weapons are more accurate than others, they also added in gambits and battalions, which add in a little bit of strategy as well. And there definitely seems to be a larger emphasis on using terrain to your advantage.
Yeah.
So they, very early on in the tutorial, they emphasize using the forest, and I have found myself doing that constantly since then. So I think while they eliminated the weapons triangle, they did add in some additional degrees of strategy, but I still wish they had the weapons triangle in the game.
Fair enough.
But they expanded all the classes that you can play.
There's a lot of classes.
Like Chris said, I haven't gotten very far. I haven't even gotten to the point where I have mounted units or anything like that, so I don't have to worry about not killing my mounted units to bows or anything like that. But there's so many classes that you can progress through. It's incredible.
I'd say, like, at a glance, there's like 30 plus classes. There's probably closer to 40.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Are they like vastly different, or is it more like there's like maybe 6 or 8 buckets, and then each of those buckets has 2 or 3 classes that are pretty similar?
Well, there's buckets in terms of level. So, like where I'm at least, I can see 4 buckets or 5 buckets, I guess, from default to like beginner to intermediate to advanced to master classes, and each of those has different different things within them. So not every class is gonna not every range. Like beginner might have an archer, but intermediate might not. It's not guaranteed. And there's reasons to reclass again and again, even within intermediate. So like if you're specialized in swords and bows, it's good to be an archer, and then if you max out that class's experience, you get like an ability, and then it makes sense to reclass yourself into a sword-based class. Like you get bonuses for your character, and all of this is driven off of the classroom stuff. Like you have to teach your students, and they have to pass exams to allow them to reclass.
Yeah, so there's a lot, and like I said, I'm very much into the professor class stuff. The marketing did not do it justice. It's a lot more fun than I thought, because it's a lot of just building out the character the way you want it to. And that's really what Fire Emblem is about for me. I came from old school where the story was okay, but it's really the really good turn-based combat. But as far as anyone out there that really is excited for the story, one of the biggest changes that Fire Emblem made, and I think this is often overlooked, is all of the dialogue is voiced now, which is amazing.
Every single line is voice acted.
Yes, which makes a huge difference.
And it's ridiculous how much, like, I can literally, there's like support conversations that all of your characters can have with each other. I can just sit down and literally eat dinner and watch them talk nonstop for like 40 minutes.
Yeah. And this is not your like Breath of the Wild voice acting. This is decent.
It's good, yeah.
Well, is it good or is it like adequate? Because Breath of the Wild voice acting was disastrous.
No, this is good. I would say good.
Yeah, good. It's not like award-winning, but it's not noticeable.
Pretty good.
It's not noticeably bad.
Yeah, so it's not Breath of the Wild.
So I have two kind of questions, just jumping off of what you guys were talking about. So I'm interested to hear, particularly from you, Jake, that you find the sim elements to actually be fun. Like, just for someone who is interested in the game, could you kind of describe what's interesting about them? And then secondly, Chris, you said that you could just like sit back and eat dinner and watch the characters talk. To me, the story has to be pretty compelling for me to have any interest in watching my two digital characters interact. So are we there in terms of the story? Is the story like an okay backdrop as opposed to just being bad? Or is it like actually like, no, I'm interested to see what these characters are going to say to each other and how they're going to interact?
So you go first, yeah.
Yeah, so the monastery where you are, the school, is interesting because you get to... there's a lot of activities that you get to do, and all of that kind of contributes to your level as a character, professor, and your team's level. So you lead a house, and that's essentially your group of people, and everything you do either affects their motivation, their stats, or their bond with other people, which has been a bond between characters has been kind of a staple since early on. So there's a lot to do there. There's a lot to explore. But honestly, probably the most interesting part is just seeing how the different characters interact just in the monastery. I mean, the connection between all of them is like enough. The characters have enough definition to keep it interesting. And just going around the monastery, talking to the characters, they usually have a problem or something they want to talk about every time you're walking around, and just having the chance to interact with them or interact with a group of them keeps it very interesting.
Yeah, and kind of going off what you were saying, that also addresses Jeremy's question, the like, how can I just sit there and watch them talk and find it entertaining?
Well, not how can you, but
no, I know.
entertaining?
So the characters talking doesn't necessarily progress the main plot at all. This is like sub-stories, character-to-character interaction. This is what's actually really impressive. Each house, off the top, I think it's 8 characters per house, and there's 3 houses, and then on top of that, there's auxiliary characters in the university. Every single one of those characters have support conversations, which are like 3-ish minute conversations between each other, and there's multiple ones for each character. So like,
right.
And you it's like past Fire Emblems, you can boost those supports by battling next to each other, battling in adjacent spaces to each other. So this is where it gets mind-blowing, right? So like, there's 20 to 30 characters-ish, and those like 30 characters, every single one of them has like 4 or 5 support conversations that last like 3 or 4 minutes. It's like, once you start to amplify that shows like how long of just like the support conversations alone there are. And you can recruit characters from other houses. So you pick a house, kind of like Hogwarts. You pick a house and you dedicate yourself to that house for the entirety of the game. And you can recruit other students from other houses into your house. So it's not like the support conversations are limited to those 8. It really is any single character in the game has full support for any other character. So like 15 plus minutes of dialogue for each duo in the game. Brian, do you have any questions about Fire Emblem? I know it's not really your thing.
No, it is definitely not my thing. But that being said, I think it sounds like the mechanics sound interesting, but like you guys are having an intelligent discourse on it. And, like, realistically, I'm not.
I think you'd like the gameplay a lot.
I was
I
just
don't
going to
think
say
you
that
would
same
like.
thing.
You wouldn't like any of the other bullshit.
The problem with it, like, I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it if it wasn't like you're in a school and you're the teacher.
You also like pursue the students sexually, basically.
Yeah, it's
so
pretty
it's
anime.
basically just like rife for. Like,
Oh yeah. There's Brian. You can go on tea parties with this.
Quotes.
Oh yeah.
It basically is fan art, dude.
You can go on tea parties with anyone in the game, and you get to. There's at one point in the tea party, you can do what's called observing them. And during observation, you can just
do what's called grooming them.
You can float the camera around and just look wherever you want. It's very weird.
Oh,
it's
cool.
very creepy.
Now I'm gonna get it. You should have lived that, Chris. That's cool. This sounds like a good game.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. But I do think, Brian, I do think you would like this. I think all three of us, Jeremy, Jake...
No, like, genuinely, the mechanics of, like, how to, like, level your team up and shit, because, like, they're solving the same basic problem as, like, Pokemon or any of these...
Yeah.
Right? But, like, it's how they do it that makes it interesting.
Oh, but the gameplay is like
not...
chess. It's literally chess. Like, you're on a chessboard with people who can do chess things.
And it's I would say, much more sophisticated because there are, as Chris has said a few times, there are many more types. There's not, how many pieces are there in chess? Like 8, 10? This is like 30, and it's not just how many spaces they can move. It's how, you're going to do a certain amount of damage. Like, there's many factors.
What weapon are you going to use?
Not that I play XCOM, but it's like XCOM.
It's very much like XCOM,
yeah, it's
except
like XCOM.
better.
Fire Emblem excels because it's easy, but also there's a lot of depth to it. XCOM is just
it's relentless. It's fucking hard as shit.
There's not.
This is also hard as shit.
But it's a little more.
I don't know, dude. Jake said it was easy.
This is the easiest Fire Emblem I've played. That being said, it's still hard.
I am playing on with the classic and hard difficulty. And it's harder than I thought. Like, the intro tutorial is exceptionally easy and really slow. The rest of it's pretty hard.
Yeah, because you gotta get those school kids.
You gotta observe
and
them.
see, that's why I
mindset.
haven't been saying anything, because you guys have been having a good conversation.
Oh,
I have nothing to add to it but smut.
But I will...
Vulgar humor.
Since Brian brought up the smut, I do have some
Hell yeah.
So as we said, the marketing for this game has been pretty damn bad. The opening for this game is equally bad, in my opinion. The circumstances as to how you end up at the monastery is just very... Like, it seems like, they decide you need to be at the monastery, and they never decide on how to get you in the first place. Like, you gotta just... This isn't really spoilers because it's the first 5 minutes of the game, but you and your father just show up at the monastery, and he's like, I guess I have to go be the general for the army again. I'll see you later, kid.
I do think it is funny how, like,
out of nowhere.
Why not just have him start at the monastery?
No, not only that,
Exactly.
but, like, they fought, like, not the principal, but, like, the archbishop of, like, the monastery, because it's like a school, it's like a Catholic school. It's lots of PTSD.
So that's why there's it's molesting and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Brian gets it. Brian and I get it. We get it.
Yeah,
Jake too. Yeah. So not only, like, you get to the monastery, and again, the head girl, she looks at you. You're the same age as your students, and she's like, "You're the next professor." Like, come on, you got the chops. But you also take classes with the students. Like, you go to seminars with them and stuff. It's like, this doesn't make a lot of sense, but
very cool.
And immediately after the archbishop makes you the professor, the other two professors who are regular adult age go up to you and said, you need to focus on making a bond with your students because you're all the same age.
Yeah, and one of them starts flirting with you immediately. She's like, I want to plow. And then even if you're the girl, Violet, because I'm the girl, I think Jake's the guy.
Yeah.
And then the again, going with the professor thing, you still have to pass your own exams. Like if you want to reclass, you have to take a test with a percent chance of it's weird.
Yeah. So they did not do a good job of really setting it up. Now that I'm into it, I'm enjoying it, but the first hour of the game was not great.
It's very slow starting. Also, the game looks like ass.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
I think it looks worse than Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, which was the first Fire Emblem game in North America on the Nintendo GameCube. Jake, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I played Path of Radiance recently on emulator, and it's not nearly as good looking as the Switch version, but I will agree. I think across the board, Switch games do not look as good as they should. I mean, not to totally derail, but if you look at Pokemon, that looks like complete crap compared to Breath of the Wild.
I'll say this looks better than Pokemon. I'll give it that.
This does look better, but there is a lot in here that I'm like,
it looks pretty bad.
This kind of seems like we're taking a step back with just painted on textures and cell shaded on top of not really cell shaded character models. There's weird parts to it that don't really fit. But on top of that, I think you did a video on this, Chris, but the cutscenes in Fire Emblem, fantastic.
Yeah.
They're so good.
The cutscenes are great and the music is great.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions, or we about good to wrap up?
I'm good.
I think we're about good. All right. Well, I'm gonna give a closing thought on the game. I'm planning on reviewing it. I don't know if Jake and I are gonna do something together or what, but I will say I'm 30 hours in. I played this game for 10 hours on Sunday, and then fell asleep and dreamed about Fire Emblem for 8 hours, and then woke up and went to work, came home, and immediately played it again. I think this is at 30 hours. Again, I heard it's 70 hours to do your first playthrough, and I heard each of the houses are significantly different enough to warrant a new playthrough that's 70 hours long for each one. So on paper, it's like a 200-hour game. I think this is one of the top 5 Switch games, maybe top 3. That's where I'm at with it. I don't know if Jake has any thoughts. I know he's a lot earlier in, but
I would agree. I think this is definitely worth the purchase. Like I said, I was skeptical going in, but now that I'm into it, I'm probably 10, maybe a little over that, hours into the game, and it's fantastic. I have no regrets. This looks like it's going to be one of the best installments of the Fire Emblem series, in my opinion.
Chris, final question.
Yo.
Is Fire Emblem The Three Houses better than Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle?
You know, I was
pretty
thinking
similar
about,
gameplay.
You're right. I was walking to work today, and I was thinking about that. I mean, I was thinking about how they're similar, you know, and yeah, it destroys it.
Ooh, so all you Rabbids heads out there,
yeah,
you sure to
at me in the comments, man.
Hop on down to the store, hop on down to your local Target, and pick up Fire Emblem, the 3 girls that you can observe in unlocked camera mode for $60.
$60. I'm sure there'll be some great DLC too.
Oh, the DLC is gonna be great.
All right, Brian, if our viewers are like you and maybe not as concerned with Fire Emblem, but super into Cohesive Friendship Unit, what should they do?
Well, you know, if you're super into Cohesive Friendship Unit, then that's something that we all have in common. So you should go ahead and click that subscribe button, because we got a ton more shit like this on the Cohesive Friendship Unit channel, and you'll be entered in. Are we still doing that?
Yeah,
dude, we're still giving away codes.
20 subs.
20 more subs, and we'll be giving away another code. And what one is it this time?
Conan Exiles.
Conan Exiles. So we'll be giving that away. So go ahead and click subscribe, and you might be the lucky winner. And if you're as disgusted by this as me, go ahead and hammer your thoughts on that down in the word box there. I mean, I'm not disgusted. I'm sure it has great artistic value to many people. That being said, smoke them if you got them. That's all for me tonight, Chris.
Thank you, Brian. Catch you guys next time.